don't want no cats out. Lil, can you close the door? Cool. It's as clean as it's gonna get.
It looks awesome. No, what are you talking about? This is great.
So these are, and they don't, I have an SG for Lillian. It's 125, I think.
Oh, that's too cute.
I know, she's finally sized this year to, she's finally
Andrea and her family always supported me in my snowboarding. They were very gracious. Sometimes they would have me stay at their home here, drive me to the airport sometimes, and support me with equipment.
It has been just a crazy journey, supporting snowboarders throughout all the years, yourself and other Olympic athletes, and not just supporting you, but I actually really treasure our friendship as well. I go back to the time that you and I, were working together. It was absolutely an honor to work with an athlete such as yourself.
Oh, thank you. I started skiing when I was little. I started skiing when I was 4 years old. So my parents originally met through skiing. And so they had a love of skiing. And when I was very little, they had a little ski cabin in the woods that they got together. And they started me skiing when I was 4 years old. So from the time I was 4 years old, I was skiing with my parents on the weekends and over Christmas holidays. And I remember we were down at Mount Baker and I saw these people snowboarding. And I thought this was the coolest thing ever. So I saved my lawn cutting money and my paper route money, and when I was 15 years old I bought my first snowboard. And actually at the last minute, just as we go in to buy the snowboard, my dad said at the last minute, "I'll pay for half." So that was pretty special to me. I knew my parents were supporting me trying snowboarding, even though it was new and it was different, and so actually it was a number of years later. I had actually even finished university by the time I finally got the courage. I called up the Blackcomb Snowboard Club and I said, "I'd like to learn how to snowboard race." So I started racing with the Blackcomb Snowboard Club, and we went to our first race out in a Silver Star, and I came fourth. I was pretty excited. Of course, there was only 4 people and girls in the race, so I was last. But I was still encouraged to keep trying. It was really fun for me. I had a good time, and I just thought it was something fun to do. So the next year I continued to race. I'd show up on the weekends and go out to Blackcomb Snowboard Club and train with them every weekend. And then that year I went to Canadian Nationals. I started working harder. I got even fitter, stronger. I started working with a mental trainer, becoming stronger that way. And, just putting all those different pieces together. So then as we moved towards the 2006 Winter Olympics, I was riding really strong. I was riding better and better, and I got my first World Cup podium. So I was in Italy. I placed second at the World Cup in Kronplatz, and and it's some miles away from Torino, right? So it's similar snow, it's a similar feel, it's the same food. And I just went into the Olympics in 2006. Instead of just being a participant, I went in knowing I was a true competitor and possibly I could come home with a medal. I went from thinking I could get a medal that day to not even being in the finals. I was done. I went through the mixed media zone, and the CBC person sticks a microphone in my face and says, "So Alexa, what do you have to say?" I had nothing to say. I was devastated. I was sad. I was embarrassed. I was ashamed. Imagine being ashamed that you just competed for your country. I just achieved my dream of competing for my country. I trained 11 years and competed for my country, but I was still ashamed. So I realized it had to be more than just about that result. It had to be more about the journey and the learnings of the journey and who I brought with me on the journey. And so moving forward to training for 2010, I knew things had to be different. So I knew I had to bring people on my journey with me. So I started going to a lot more schools and visiting kids and telling them about my story and using it as an opportunity to inspire the kids to have a dream, to aim high, to work hard, and to give back to their community too. Finding ways to push your boundaries so that you can improve and overcome fears and practice overcoming fears. Every time you overcome a fear, you get that crazy thrill feeling, but also you get more confidence in yourself, right? So how do you give yourself more fearful opportunities to overcome? Because the more you practice it, the better you get at overcoming things.
Can we see it one more time?
It's a clay.
Oh, this one's like Christmas.
She made it.
Cool.
That's the card key, and the other is magnetic.
Or my fridge magnet. Cool. And I shared my story. I brought people on my journey with me so that they understood what it was, what I was sacrificing, what I was doing, and the lessons I was learning as I went. The lessons of humility, the lessons of hard work, the lessons of getting along with my teammates. I shared those lessons, and I think it made a difference to move forward and to make that part of me growing as a person, growing as an athlete, and to share all that information with people. Leading up to the 2010 Winter Olympics, I had really made a lot of effort to get engaged with my community and to, bring people along. And when I was at the 2010 Games, this came in the mail. And this was done by all the people at the community center, at Steveston Community Center. They created this. People came together and signed messages for me. Good luck, Alexa, go. And it was opening this up at the Olympics Games was really so encouraging to me and really touched my heart to know that people cared and sent me these good messages to hopefully bring home the gold. It's just over 11 years ago that we were here getting ready for the Olympics and enjoying the spirit of the 2010 Winter Games. I was so excited. I got to compete in snowboarding just up there on Cypress Mountain. And here, Jackpool Plaza was the epicenter of all the fun. People came from all over the world. My friends, family, everyone was here celebrating the games, coming together in sport, friendship, and in competition. I think 2010 was a win for me. I got to bring so many people on that journey with me. I grew as a person, as an athlete. I think I'm a better person than I was before 2010. I think I shared the story. I think I made the sports system in Canada better. I got more political. I got more involved in the Canadian sports system, in fighting for fairness on the qualification standards, in making sure those qualification standards were well known and well understood by the athletes. We fought for a Minister of Sport in Canada. And then we lobbied that Minister of Sport for more funding for Canadian sport. We got $7 million a year for 1,400 carded athletes in Canada. We increased the carding for Canadian athletes by 30%. It was a huge difference. So athletes could now afford to stay in sport longer. They could afford to have better nutrition. We made it so that any sport receiving funding had to have an athlete on their board of directors as an athlete rep. So you now had the athlete voice at the table. And so many sports are women-only sports, like synchronized swimming, yet you still have a whole bunch of guys running your sport. So it's important to have the athlete voice at the table. And I think we improved the whole face of sport in Canada with the more funding and better representation on the boards, I think. After I retired from snowboarding, I got married, I had my kids. I actually did go back to accounting. And, it's a good job. Being an accountant's a good job. It opens a lot of doors, but public practice really wasn't the place for me. Because when I was back in snowboarding, when I got political about things, I could turn the dial a little bit by making a policy change here or working on something there. So the policy change of getting an athlete at the table. So I wanted to be able to make a bigger change to more people and to make their lives better. So I feel like being on city council was the thing that was going to help me make the community even better. There are many families in Richmond with half Asian kids, so where one parent is Asian and one parent's Caucasian. And so the kids are half. We used to joke that we were half Chinese, half white, and all Canadian. My dad, Charlie, he is Chinese, a Chinese Canadian. He was born in Flin Flon, Manitoba, actually. But his father came from Guangdong, came from Hoi Ping in 1910. So he came over very early. He ended up opening a restaurant in Flin Flon, Manitoba, where he served the miners. So 24 hours a day that restaurant was operating. Coming to Chinatown always makes me think of my grandfather and how it was when he first came to Canada, and how, you know, of course he came to Chinatown in Vancouver where there was a small Chinese population, but they all came together, starting their businesses together, selling foods that were familiar, the siu bao that you get on the street, and you're just able to have that taste of home. And I think that's the important thing, is to come together as community and to feel what it's like, to talk your language, to share your stories, and then to support each other in the new life together. My dad used to get into fights when people would call him a chink. That was a thing back in the days. And so when he married my mom's Caucasian, they decided to move to Richmond. And I found out quite a bit later that the reason they chose Richmond is because it's very multicultural. My grandfather came over 111 years ago to Canada. And so, yeah, things were different. I never got called a chink. People rarely made fun of my last name. You know, I didn't grow up with that kind of racism or that kind of treatment in Richmond. It was a safe place. It was a welcoming place. What I'd like to say to the young generation is aim high, work hard, and give back. You are the same as everybody else. So you have the same opportunities to get ahead and to show who your value and your worth. Well, to me, the Olympics it's the pinnacle, it's the best. It's the opportunity to compete at your best, and compete against the best. And so it's everybody coming together in friendship, in sport. And I think when you have that opportunity, you have a good competitive field. Everybody pushes each other to get the best out of themselves and each other, right? So it's not just, I want to like totally beat you. I want us to both compete at our best. And I'd like to beat you for sure. But if your best is better than my best that day, that's awesome too. It's to see what the best can be. And I think that's what we need to tell our kids, that you are more than that result that day. That result is a measure of your ability, but it doesn't define who you are. Being an Olympian is an attitude and it's a behavior and it's part of who you are, and it helps define you, but it's being the Olympian, the person that it plays fair, that is honest, that has integrity, that works hard and perseveres and has resilience. Those are the things that make you that person. And so I think the fair play, the honesty, the hard work, integrity, and just showcasing what the sport can be, I think is so important for the Olympics. And I think that's why the Olympics is important. We set aside all our political differences, we set aside all these things. We set the groundwork for what fair play is going to be, and we show up and we compete. And I think that's what's important, is getting the best out of everybody. In leading up to the 2022 Beijing Olympics, or Beijing, I'd like to wish all the athletes and all the competitors to do their very best. And I think that's what the Olympics is about, us all getting together, seeing everybody do their best. You know, I have friends who are now coaching for China and introducing sports to China and helping those kids be the best that they can be. And I think this is an opportunity for the world to come together and see everybody perform and compete